That do it.
Let's see. It's a bit of a delay.
Do it.
So
that did not do it.
Oh,
What the heck? Oh, wait. There's something there. Maybe that's working.
Is it working?
All right. That is so wrong. But, I'm going to take it for what it is, and we'll fix it like the quote-unquote right way later. Sorry about that, folks.
Woo!
Thank you for joining us. Welcome to 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, friends and lovers. We're glad you're here.
And in this episode, we just had a special mime performance.
And mime is money.
So thank you for joining us on our new direction in working as mimes.
Yeah, totes snafu. Where do we go from here? No, okay, we'll start all over again. Thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, friends, lovers. Today, Sunday, June 4th, 2023, is the 155th day of this your best year yet. You have got 210 days left to make it so. That ain't a lot. Christmas this year falls on December 25th. Isn't that strange? In 204 days, 149 days until Halloween, and just 17 days until summer in the Northern Hemisphere. Sorry about you folks down under, but maybe you're looking forward to a big chill. Summer.
It's like Halloween down there.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, well, I think...
Crisp leaves falling from the trees.
I think they have like a springtime Halloween. That's got to be really weird. I'm sorry. You have sympathy. My friends from Africa and Brazil and Argentina and especially Australia.
Yes.
I'm sure you're going to tell me, oh no, Robert, we've got the most charming way of doing those holidays in the Southern Hemisphere. Trouble again?
Sound again? Let us know.
Somebody has sound again. Well, I'm showing sound now. I'm showing levels.
Are we okay? Let us know in the chat.
Well, it's Apollo Zeus who has a sense of humor, so this might not actually be an issue. But yeah, somebody in the chat, let us know. Do we have sound?
Okay.
And
no, we do.
We do. Okay. Yes. Good. I'm just going to take a second here and block Apollo's. No, I'm kidding. Of course I'm kidding. No, I have to bring up the Facebook chat. Did not come up automatically. Man, snafu. Situation normal, all fouled up, to use that Army metaphor, without the profanity. We had swearing on last week's show, so don't know if I can do that again. Linda Cordair repeats, mime is money. We all know this is Spinal Tap, one of the great movies of all time. If you've never seen Spinal Tap, what is wrong with you? Get on that. And on this date, let me jump right through these, because this is the whole show. Well, the whole theme of the show. Because on June 4th, the most amazing thing happened. And if you're one of those people who hears this and says, oh no, that's the worst thing that ever happened, I want to know, because I got to know who to remove from my friends list. 1919, 104 years ago, but more than 150 years after the establishment of the United States of America.
What?
No, that wouldn't be right. 1919, do the math. More than 125 years after the establishment of the United States of America.
But still.
I'm a math magician. The 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified, and then it would be later ratified by the states. But the Congress passed the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote.
Yes.
Women didn't have the right to vote when this country was established. The hell's up with that?
Go into the ballot box and I'm going to vote for a politician.
It's the craziest thing. We live in modern times, and it seems so weird that there was a time when women weren't considered to have the discernment, the judgment, the
wherewithal.
Yes,
I mean,
and the skin in the game, since they weren't property owners.
Right. That was a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, passed by Congress June 4th, 1919, ratified by August 18th by the states. The 19th Amendment granted women the right to vote. The 19th Amendment legally guarantees American women the right to vote. Achieving this milestone required a lengthy and difficult struggle. What do you mean a lengthy and difficult struggle? What, they finally figured out and they passed a law? No. Women and men who understood the issue and said, no, we got to fight for this too. They fought for it, and there was blood and violence and all sorts of things.
There was forced feeding and all sorts of horrible
Women
things.
put in jail and treated horribly for fighting for the right to vote, to go to a ballot box, put in a check mark. Amazing, amazing.
I mean, and it just shows. I mean, at that point, there were women authors, there were women, professors, there were, women could, hell. I mean, wasn't that just like around the time that there were women wing walkers? Who basically strapped themselves to the wings of airplanes and went upside down.
It's amazing.
All sorts of things. And I mean, just even, okay, I'll just say this. One of my first heroes ever in my entire life was Harriet Tubman. I did a book report on her. For her to do what she did, and for anybody to say, either African Americans or women were unable to have the intelligence, have the Constitution, have the drive to own their own money, own their own property, and to have the right to vote and to understand political issues, that's crazy talk.
Crazy talk.
Absolutely crazy. I mean, after Harriet Tubman especially, I mean, among other, Susan B. Anthony and other, Abigail Adams, and I mean, just women of letters, and, yeah.
The counterexamples to the idea that women did not have the intellect or the values to vote, the counterexamples are all over history. And the kind of men, of course, who created this country were men of the intellect. They knew better. They knew better. So whatever the history, it's worth knowing what women went through. So what you want to do is you want to go to the Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation,
you do.
Where there is an exhibit with Liberty for All, where you can walk through part of what that process looked like. Now, if you're not in Southeast Michigan, maybe you're not ready to get on an airplane, come down here to Dearborn. But if not, go online. There's a link in the show notes to the museum, the artifacts, the things they've got in the museum. On that subject of women's suffrage, highlights from the collection of the Henry Ford, a link is right online. Let me jump right to another famous historical woman. Great women. We're talking about great women. Well, we're going to talk about women in general, but on this date, June 4th, 2003... Martha Stewart was indicted for securities fraud and obstruction of justice. Now, this has nothing to do with women. This is entirely, we got to get the government out of the stock market. I mean, she was indicted for fraud, and if there was fraud, obviously that should, but best I can tell, this was a miscarriage of justice. At trial, Stewart, who maintained her innocence, was found guilty, and an appeal for a new trial was denied. Of course, you're not going to give this woman a new trial. She's one of those rich people. Stewart was sentenced to 5 months in a West Virginia minimum security federal prison. Well, okay, that could have been worse, but 5 months out of her life, come on. She served out the sentence in 2004, then served 5 months of house arrest, 2 years of probation. And then what happened? I can't believe it's almost 20 years later, at the age of 81, Martha Stewart, the great, of all of the magazines and the pictures and the recipes and television shows and helping people live better, slightly, not glamorous, just better lives, more beautiful lives. Martha Stewart, at 81 years of age, is the oldest Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue cover model in history. Martha Stewart noted, age is not the determining factor in terms of friendship or in terms of success. But what people do, how people think, how people act, that's what's important, and not your age. Now, I'm still young, Amy's still young, we're still kids, but, someday we'll be older, and it will be nice to see somebody 81 years old setting the kind of example that Martha Stewart does. Not necessarily appearing in a one piece on the cover of Sports Illustrated, but living her own best life. I hope y'all are doing that too.
Yeah. Now, actually, I bought a I forget what it was called, but Martha Stewart did a book about aging and how to, what to do, and how to age gracefully, and what to eat, how to exercise, what to look out for, all of this other stuff. I have that book. That's why I look so young.
Yes.
No.
Well, Well, and you're a subscriber to Martha Stewart magazine, and there's always
Yeah.
good stuff in there. And it's nice because it's very practical. It's not the kind of magazine you read and you think, gee, I wish my life was like that.
Right.
Well, there's some of that. But also just good things that you can do wherever you're at in life. Good stuff.
Good recipes.
It's also the birth date of Andrea Jaeger, tennis star, age 58. One of the greats. I think she was number one in mixed doubles, came in second in singles. And a bit of a mixed story, a bit of a sad story, because what really knocked her out of competition was all the sexism. And, the guys in position of power hitting on her, and she eventually joined the church. She even released an article, why I became a nun because of sexism.
Oh my goodness!
I don't think she literally became a
joined
nun,
the Catholic Church,
but she did join the church and work for the church.
Gotcha.
And sad, but 58 years old and still around, and so happy birthday. Also a happy birthday to Angela Jolie,
Okay.
one of those closet objectivists, or at least Ayn Rand fans.
Right.
Famously wanted to play Dagny Taggart if they ever made a decent movie of Atlas Shrugged, which sadly hasn't been done yet. Mm-hmm. But yes, Angela Jolie Voight, because she's John Voight's daughter. She says, while attending Beverly Hills High School, from the article, her early attempts at modeling at her mother's insistence, well, of course, daughter of a movie star, proved unsuccessful. She then transferred from Beverly Hills High School, Marino High School, an alternative school where she became a quote-unquote punk outsider,
Oh yeah, that's right.
wearing all black clothing, going out moshing, and engaging in knife play with her live-in boyfriend. So happy birthday to punk rock Ayn Rand fan.
Because when she dated or was married to, I'm not so sure, when she was going out with Billy Bob Thornton, they each had a vial, allegedly, of a vial of each other's blood.
Yes, they had the blood amulets. That's right. Angela, she's just so much fun.
No, she's I like her. And she's
yes.
Yeah, she just it's too bad that I won't get into my rant about how much I dislike Brad Pitt, but I'll just say that I'm leaving it there.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Looks like Apollo Zeus is planning on writing an essay on female beauty. That could be interesting. The issue of femininity is a challenging one. Fortunately, I'm an expert, and we've talked about it on the show before, but it's not easy or obvious.
It's strange because, I think, okay, so imagine being a little girl, all right? You go around, you haven't blossomed yet. There is no mammary gland going on. And you're still told if you want to wear a bikini that you have to wear a top with it, even though you don't have anything up there. And then you're encouraged, not so much anymore, but back then you're encouraged to play with dolls and all this stuff, and don't play with your brother's toys. They're not girls' toys and all this stuff. So anyway, I'm just really happy that we're kind of getting over those sort of stereotypes. And but just imagine now, and then you're 11 or 12 years old as a young adolescent girl, and you're taller than all the boys in your class, and you're thinking to yourself, hot damn, I'm taller than all the boys in my class, I'm gonna go beat them up. Actually, I actually did that. I actually got into a fight with another boy, and it was good. I knew how to fight because I was raised with a brother who's older, and he really was into professional wrestling. So I knew how to do all that, and here I am. And then all of a sudden you're 15 and you're no longer taller than the boys, and it just kind of sucks. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of interesting facets to being a woman. It's not all straightforward.
At that point, you're developing in ways that make you both attractive and vulnerable,
and also effing annoyed.
And your plumbing becomes a curse once a month.
And then you've got to wear all sorts of strappy things on your torso, and it's just not comfortable. It's not comfortable. Anyway.
It's not easy being a woman.
But all through all that, all of high school, even I was. I mean, if people had seen me nowadays, the way that I looked back then, they'd be like, "Oh, well, let's stereotype her into into being like a kind of like a butch punk rock lesbian or something like that, or maybe she wants to be a guy, or perhaps she's transitioning." Those are the sorts of thoughts they would say today about how I used to look. So it was an interesting journey. But yeah, I am, a lot of women I know, including my hero, Harriet Tubman, they were not afraid to lay down the law and punch boys in the nose. As a matter of fact, I did that when I was 7. I punched a boy in the nose because he was picking on all the other girls. He came up to me and he tried picking on me. And I punched him in the nose and made it bleed. And I was really kind of like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm thinking to myself, that's actually kind of good.
You seem 43 years later to still be proud of yourself.
Yes. The teacher did not punish me.
Very nice. Sometimes that's what you've got to do. It's how do you manage bullies?
Right.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to stand up for them.
Absolutely, and that's what I did. Yep.
Excellent.
Anyway, but yeah, being a female is very interesting, and the whole idea of like, okay, now you're beautiful and you're blossomed and blah blah blah, and you're curvaceous, and men are attracted to you, and and you pride yourself on your appearance in that way. Those sorts of experiences in adolescence, they don't go away. So don't mess with women. They might just make your nose bleed. So I'll just say that.
It's the least of what they will do. But yes. Now we have one more birthday to celebrate. Same age as Angelina Jolie, born on the same day. Also turning 48 today is Russell Edward Brand. Those of you who know who Russell Brand is, the comedian. Actually, I think he's better known for his promiscuity and his drug use and his political views and his outrageous behavior at awards ceremonies, his dismissal from MTV and resignation from the BBC, and his 2-year marriage to the American singer Katy Perry. I'm asking the question today, are women the bunk, or are they the best? Here, let me put this up on the screen here.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, this is from Good Copy.
Good Copy, an early story by the author Ayn Rand.
Yeah, from the early Ayn Rand book.
And it's a short story, and it's very frivolous. It's great fun. And our protagonist, Lowry McGee, or Damned Dan as he comes to be known, and on the next couple pages, has just stopped the socialite, the rich girl in this small town, Jinx Winford. And you'll be sorry to learn my name. He hasn't even told her who he is. I think he's wearing a mask at this point. Everybody will tell you that my hand is of steel, my heart is of granite, that I pass in the night like a death-bearing lightning, leaving terror and desolation behind. To which Jinx answers, "Oh, really? I am sorry, and you have all my sympathy. It must be awfully hard to live up to such a reputation." Lowry looked at her strangely. He then remembered that great bandits are always courteous to women, so he spoke gallantly. "However, you have nothing to fear. I crush all men, but I spare women." To which Jinx Winifred responds, "That's nothing to be proud of. Women are the bunk, and you ought to know it." Now, this is Ayn Rand writing, and granted, this was an early short story, never meant for publication, well before she became the philosopher and author that she did. But yeah, women are the bunk, and you ought to know it. I don't know. Maybe that's something that I have to disagree with Ayn Rand on.
I think she was being funny.
I think she was too.
I really think she was being funny.
It's obvious that throughout this story, the character Jinx is running the show.
Yes.
There's no doubt who is running the show in this entire adventure.
Or basically just to point out, women. I'm supposed to be, a weak woman or whatever. I don't have the muscle mass, whatever. And and she's like, yeah, you're so tough picking up, even like picking on the littlest guy, how tough are you? Whoop-de-doo, so.
Yes.
But yeah, there are obviously differences between men and women, especially their bones and their muscle mass and their reproductive systems and all that stuff. So, but yeah, this was very funny. And the first thing I thought of when I first read this years ago was, Ayn Rand was influenced by Friedrich Nietzsche when she was younger. So was I. And I remember Nietzsche would say things, like, "Oh, all women are cows, blah 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 blah." But and I did actually a biography on Nietzsche in high school, and he would go around and he would get into sword fights and all of this, and then he would end up at a brothel and sleep with a lady.
Yeah, he famously visited houses of ill repute. What does it say about him that he was drawn to cows
right
to be with?
Yeah, you put it really well.
Nietzsche.
You put that really well earlier.
Yeah, what kind of animal are you if you think women are cows and that's who you decide to sleep with at the end of the day?
Right. What does that say about you?
Yeah. Now, Jim Ashley in the chat says, what does the word bunk mean? It's a type of bed. But it's also short for bunkum, which is a synonym for nonsense.
Yes.
And makes me think of Marilla in Anne of Green Gables and her expression, stuffin' nonsense.
Yeah.
So, yes, bunkum.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I said this to Robert. So earlier today, there was this, I got this jar of salsa out from the cupboard, and I tried opening it. And I'm thinking to myself, because I was working out, I did some push-ups yesterday, and I'm thinking I'm a little sore, I'm just gonna have Robert see if he can't open it up. Well, after much grunting and groaning and, applying towels to it, and I'm like, I pick up a spoon, I'm like, I think it's time for the spoon to open up the lid.
Oh, right, you tap it with the spoon in the direction of opening it.
Yeah, exactly, right. And that works. But you eventually got it.
No, we did not use the spoon.
We did not use the spoon.
I did not. As a manly man, I did not allow the use of the spoon. Will not have that.
So he gets the lid off, and I'm like, that's right, Robert. Women are the bunk.
That's right.
Here I am, ready to use that spoon at any moment.
Well, the proof is in women's response to cheese, but we'll get to that in a moment. The reason I mentioned that it is both Angelina Jolie and Russell Brand's birthday. Russell Brand is the bunk. If you've listened to his podcast, if you've listened to anything that he says about culture and politics, he's a very, very funny guy. But man, what a dope. What a goofball. So, are women the bunk? Well, we're not going to answer that question yet, but there's more evidence for you in coming up with the answer. Also, today, June 4th, are we still talking about the date? It is Happy National Cheese Day. Now, of course, cheese is important because, and you guys know this if you're watching the video version, you may fascinate a woman by giving her a piece of cheese. I think we all know that. I think we are all familiar with that bit of wisdom from the classic book.
I like your finger on that.
That's not actually my finger.
Okay. Somebody's finger. That gives
but
it more...
yes, that really does.
More weight to that idea.
It does. It's a meme that goes... This goes back to a text from the 17th century in the Complete Book of Magic and Witchcraft. And this advice, I mean, look at this. Take a shoe that the woman you love has worn, fill it with rue, hang it over your bed to make her love you. I mean, the causal mechanism is just obvious.
I see this very clearly.
It can't possibly... To win a maiden's love, get a hair and a pin off her unperceived.
Oh, in secret.
That would be fun to figure out how to do that. Twist the hair around the pin and then throw them backwards over a river. I hope they mean the pin in the hair and not the girl that you love. Backwards into a river. And most famously, you may fascinate a woman by giving her... I'm guessing this is true. If you give a woman a piece of cheese, she's going to be fascinated. Maybe not in the way you want her to be fascinated, but Oh my gosh, look at this.
Wait, they don't see it yet because you've got the thing up.
Oh, let me remove
Yeah.
that
Well, you may
charming
wanna-
graphic there.
You may want to present this to me.
Darling,
Oh,
I would like
this?
to present you a piece of actually, I'm not really presenting Amy because Amy is the one who went out. Because it is a National Cheese Day, I hope you are all
Yeah.
enjoying cheese today.
So I got some double creme brie.
You do.
And
You've got a good brie there.
Yes, it's very delicious.
You have melted some over a couple of fresh strawberries.
Yes.
Look
as a
at
matter of
that.
fact. So,
Holy smoke. Well, I'm going to let you try that first
I'm gonna
while
try
I
it
do the
first.
talking here.
All right.
But yes, it's a National Cheese Day. You know, last week we did a live show from the lake. That was a hoot. And cheeseburgers were I think it was a National Cheeseburger Day. So cheese was part of the menu that day as well. It's always a good day for cheese. How can you have a bad day for cheese? So, yes,
Oh, that's
make sure
nice.
you are celebrating National Cheese Day. Amy, how is the brie and strawberries?
It's very good.
Good.
It's because I had thought about getting like an apple or pear or something that may bring out a little bit of oomph, but this is pretty good. If you would like to try one.
I am going to I'm just
All
noticing Equal to Reality in the chat says Russell Brand a comedian? Now just nuts. He says he does not find Russell Brand funny.
Yeah, I don't either, actually.
He's not when you see him on television programs and things, but I don't know. I guess he's been in a couple of good movies. It works. Or maybe it doesn't.
We actually saw the movie, was it Take Somebody or Going to the Greek or something about something Greek?
Yeah, get somebody to the Greek. Get
I
him
don't
to the
know.
Greek. You know, maybe it wasn't that good because we can't remember
We don't
the title
remember
of
it. We don't
I
remember
may
the
be
title.
entirely wrong, and Russell Brand has nothing
Our
going for
one
him.
friend recommended that.
Yes.
And
It was a recommendation. All right,
it
let's
was, let's see how this is.
say something while I eat this bit
Yeah.
of brie on strawberry.
Yeah, so our friend recommended the movie and everything, and now I have fleeting pictures in my mind of what this movie was. I don't remember exactly. It was like a rock star or something like that, and they had to like get the rock star somewhere to perform, but the rock star was inebriated, and that was real funny.
Well, he was acting.
and the
he was
boy,
acting like Russell Brand.
was that ever memorable? Golly.
Oh yeah, Equal to Reality confirms it was called "Get Him to the Greek."
Thank you. Delicious cheese. Oh, and I also bought you the red apple
Smoked cheddar.
smoked cheddar.
A good smoked cheddar. Very nice.
Very nice. This is naturally cold smoked with apples and hardwood. That sounds delicious.
Very nice. You gonna hand me one of those, please? Thank
Here
you.
you are.
I will tamp my pie hole here in order to be classy. Oh, speaking of classy, how do you like the hat?
Yeah.
Huge shout out to Jennifer Lionberger,
Yes.
without whom this hat would not exist, or at least wouldn't be in my personal sphere. We were in a helicopter yesterday.
Oh my! Were we? Were
Was
we
that
in
a
a
great
helicopter
day or
yesterday? What?
Yes.
Yes. No, you're lying.
It was the best. It was the best. I think it was the first time I've ever been in a helicopter.
Fun. It was the first time we were ever.
We've been in small planes, but
Yeah.
we've never been in a helicopter before.
Yeah. Oh, this was the best. It
really
was.
is.
It was like we were experiencing the essence of being a bumblebee or something like that. I'm not
And you know, one
entirely
of the
sure,
things that
but-
makes a helicopter different is they don't
Yeah.
usually go so high that the atmospheric pressure is an issue.
Right.
And so if you look at helicopters, the small ones that, somebody would take you on a ride in, they're mostly glass. There's not much obstructing your view. So it's just a beautiful vehicle to be up, 500 feet above the ground in. Just beautiful. So thank you for that,
Yeah.
Jennifer. You
That
are
was
the best. Very
so
much
great.
appreciated.
Thank you, Jennifer.
There's one more holiday today. It is National Old Maids Day. This is the day on which all the spinsters, people who have no husbands, so they sit around spinning wool into thread. It's the craziest thing,
Yeah,
but
that's gonna have to that term's gonna have to go because it's so archaic.
I love going back in history and realizing how far we've come. We take
Yeah.
so many things for granted that it's easy to complain that we're not further along than we are,
Yeah.
but we have come so far.
Yeah, isn't there a card game called Old Maid?
Old Maid. And nowadays, of course, it's not that unusual for a lady as well as a gentleman to say, I've chosen not to get married. Now, I'm a big fan of marriage. I love the idea of marriage. I love, of course, the fact of marriage. But I also love the fact that some people are self-determined that, no, I want to be single. And I'm good with that.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't understand is why do they call them old maids? If you go to get married, you as a lady would invite a lady friend of yours to be your best man, except a woman. And you would call her, well, of course, if she's never been married before, you would call her the maiden of honor. And if she hasn't been married, you would call her the maid of honor. So why do we call people who've never been married old maids?
Maybe there's a cutoff for calling women maidens. But, I mean, now you can just call them cougars. Young cougars.
There you go. On the prowl. And that's it for the date.
All right.
I can't believe it took us that long to get to the date. But we've kind of been making the point all along. Are women the bunk? Well, look at men. For Pete's sake, women are just the best. But I'll go on a little bit with that because this week under Shameless Self-Promotion, the 2 shows that I did one with James Valiant, the ineffable James Valiant. Actually, it's probably effable. But James Valiant on the price of liberty, and our show, using Leonard Peikoff's Keeping It Real as a source, we talked about the price of liberty. Why? Because in the United States, we just celebrated Memorial Day last weekend. And that was great.
Yes.
So it was great to talk to James about that. A very good show, if I do say so myself. And that was the last day of May. The next day was the first day of June. The first day of June, Pride Month, the month to celebrate Pride. And man, have I had some fun with that. Even gotten a little bit of trouble with it. Because I did an episode called Pride Month, right on target. I won't even explain the whole thing. Watch the show.
It's really good.
I've gotten some not everybody loved it, but the people who did love it for exactly the reasons I hoped people would love it, and that is the most gratifying feeling of all. So thank you for that. But also, last week, Dr. Harry Binswanger, he runs a forum, and part of running this forum is once a week he does a live Zoom call with everybody who's paying to be part of this forum called Meeting of the Minds. I've mentioned this once or twice. And last week his topic was, why has the world not ended? Well, it turns out, I think I mentioned it as a teaser, you can't hear it unless you're signed on. Well, now you can hear it because he's going to do a public version of it tomorrow. Link is in the show notes. His show topic for HBTV, Harry Binswanger Television. Why has the world not ended yet?
Right.
Well,
what? It hasn't?
The reason I'm glad that he's going to do a public version of it in addition to the private one that I've already heard.
Yeah.
Because, Amy, we answered that question.
Years ago.
Yeah. And we did a particularly charming version.
It's good that he's catching up. It's good that he's... I'm kidding.
Well, the version we did a few weeks ago, the last week of March, an episode called I've Seen All Good People. To me, I think we answered that question. Why has the world not ended yet? In fact, why do most things, not everything right now during inflationary times and during the particular president and the previous president in the United States, but everything else is getting mostly better all the time? I think we answered that question. So I put a link to that show as well in the show notes. I've Seen All Good People. Of course, folks will know I chose that title because I am the world's best, if not biggest, Yes fan out there.
It's true.
If that sounds purely subjective, Jim Ashley is still writing about Bunk. This comment is pure 100% Bunk. If my self-analysis of myself as the world's greatest Yes fan sounds like 100% Bunk, take that for what it's worth. You can disagree with me if you want to be wrong. So...
No, he said that before you mentioned yes.
There you go. Yeah, no, I was actually just refreshing that screen to make sure I didn't miss any comments, which can be a challenge to keep up with, but I love the chat.
Well, James is actually in the YouTube comments. So, hello, James. We love you very, 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 very much.
Well, and he proudly heard me recommend that show we did this week. It is a must-listen, and it's not just about... Well, why do policemen, why do soldiers, why do firefighters take on these sacrificial jobs? They're sacrificing their life. No, they're not. They're taking substantial risks for the things they value. If you want more on that, listen to that episode. Good stuff.
Yeah, we actually ran into some firefighters yesterday. we didn't really have time to talk to them, but while we were out, riding in helicopters, we
Yes.
happened upon this really nice group. They were trying to recruit some volunteer firemen.
firefighters.
And I thought that was really cool. And
It was
they had
very
they had a fire truck, and they had a firefighting boat.
They had the fireboat. They had
And-
the amphibious
so great.
firefighting vehicle.
It was really, really cool to see. And and I thought, gosh, I want to be a fireman.
And if you're
Don't think
wondering
I could, but-
why did they have a fire boat, we were on an island in an airplane hangar
Yes.
on an island. So yes, it was a very cool place to be.
was so
A
cool.
big fair, the island, Groseal, Michigan.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful island south of Detroit. And great fair, great time. And yes, firefighters. Very cool. Zero sacrifice required.
Yes.
The price of liberty, of course, they're the ones willing to pay it because they believe in it. Absolutely. So I think at this point we're ready to answer the question. Yeah, I think women are the best.
Actually, we do have one more question before we get to that.
What's that? What's going on there? What
Apollo
did I miss?
says, what's your opinion on Rick Wakeman?
What's my opinion on Rick Wakeman? I love everything about Rick Wakeman except when he needed the money and when he doesn't know to stop joking.
Oh,
So he did a few albums and he's acknowledged this. Some of the albums
Yes.
that he did were purely because he was in financial straits.
but he could do it. He's like, I'm gonna do it.
Listen to the latest edition of Kevin Mulrine's Yes Music podcast. Just go on any podcast app or even on YouTube. Just look up Yes Music podcast. And him and Mark Anthony Kay, who are his co-host, reviewed an album by Rick Wakeman called Two Sides of Yes, in which he, and on some of the songs, two other musicians, did cover versions of a bunch of Yes songs.
Oh,
They are the worst. If you hear them, you will say that can't be the brilliant man
I've never heard this before.
who did The Six Wives of Henry VIII. This can't be the same man who played on albums like Fragile, who played the iconic organ solo on Roundabout. This can't be the same musician. It's and if you want to hear, well, what's the very worst it could be? Listen to the cover of the song Going for the One.
Oh,
It sounds like bad, not even good, circus music. If you can imagine the brilliant song, I love the song Going for the One, reimagined as bad circus music. So I love Rick Wakeman. I love Rick Wakeman for everything that he's achieved,
I love him too.
except when he's selling. And again, he's the first person to say he sold out. He needed the money because he's been divorced a couple times and he did have alcohol problems at a few
Yeah.
times in his life.
Yeah,
He's been
he-
through the ringer. He's been through a lot. When he's
Yeah.
good, nobody can touch him. And he's one of those musicians you don't even realize that, oh, yeah, he was the keyboard player for Yes, and he did a lot of solo stuff. That's true. But like many of the greats, we talked about this yesterday with Jennifer, Jimmy Page and Leon Russell, who were also great session musicians. You know, when you hear David Bowie's Space Oddity, that's Rick Wakeman playing all those interesting keyboards. He was the keyboard player on that. Rick
Well,
ma-
you know what else Rick did?
he played the piano on Cat Stevens' Morning is Broken. What else did he do?
He actually had a son named Oliver. And
that's
Oliver
true.
Wakeman actually toured for a time with Yes.
That's right.
This was a while ago, 20 years ago or something. But,
been a while.
I mean, it just says it right there. I mean,
Yes.
his own son was able to pick up on what he's doing. And,
Oh, yeah. Both of his sons are
yeah.
also extraordinary keyboard players.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
I didn't realize that there were two.
Yes. Oliver and now it's escaping me, the second one. I'll remember it in a moment. But yes, I love Rick Wakeman.
Yeah,
That's,
and we
that's
also
a long answer to a short question.
we actually have a friend named Angel who is a really, 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 really big fan of Rick Wakeman, and he just in the past year or so got to meet Rick Wakeman.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Oh, that's right. He did get to meet him.
He did. And
Yeah,
it was-
Angel is a keyboard player himself.
Yes.
And one of the things he does is he plays not the easy stuff, but the hardest Rick Wakeman parts. And he's just, blazingly fast. I don't even know if Rick is even that fast anymore. So, yeah, Angel is a great keyboard player. I could go,
Oh,
obviously,
and we
I
have
could go
one
on.
more. I
Yes.
know it's so Jim says or asks, do Yes, Emerson, Lincoln Palmer, and King Crimson have at least one member in common to all three groups?
Ooh, well,
Kinda,
no, but you
not
can do the
really.
connection
You
in
can.
several ways.
Yes.
The first person who comes to mind is Bill Bruford.
Yes.
I can't find one member who was in all three, but I can find multiple members who were in at least two. So Bill Bruford was both in Yes and in King Crimson. John Wetton was actually in King Crimson,
That's right.
but he was in Asia with Steve Howe from Yes.
So a lot of connections.
Yeah.
But just
And
only
Carl
one.
Palmer has played on stage with members of Yes because they toured together. So there are a lot of connections, but
Yeah.
no, not one single member
Well,
who was in all three groups.
One direct, which is Bill Bruford with Yes and King Crimson.
Right.
And I really wish that Bill Bruford stuck with Yes. The work he did in Yes for the first, what is it, 3 albums?
It's stunningly good.
Oh, it is just, I've never heard another drummer so good in my life. He's originally a jazz drummer. He would basically harmonize. He would figure out what notes they were playing, and he would harmonize with the drum sounds that he was working with. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is that the sound of Bill Bruford's drums,
Yes.
the kit that his
Oh.
choice of kit, the sharpness of the drum sounds, the cymbals, just you can hear them. I love Alan White, but I
Yeah.
can't hear his cymbals unless I really crank the treble up on my stereo and do it to where it's almost painful in the ears. Bill Bruford, you can hear the entire kit. And he's a top player. He plays the top
Yeah.
of the kit even more than the groove underneath. So anyway, yeah. Good stuff. Great question. Thank you for that.
All right. So I think that's it, and we're going to go ahead and talk about are women the bunk? Oh, well, we got something from Linda.
Linda Cordier wants to know, is it true, or she says it's true, that at the beginning of Hey Jude, the reason the song starts off with no drums is because Ringo Starr had slipped out to use the bathroom. I haven't heard that one, but it is interesting that there
I
are
believe
Beatles
it.
songs where Ringo Starr wasn't even there. Of course, he quit the group for a while during the making of the White Album. And it's interesting that the two songs that were, several songs, but the two in particular that had drums that were recorded without Ringo Starr, they put them right at the beginning of the album. The very first two songs, that opened the record, Back in the USSR and Dear Prudence, that's Paul McCartney playing the drums on those songs. So yeah, there are some great,
That's cool. Yeah, Linda
there's
says,
some great stories. Oh yeah,
says
Paul McCartney.
said
Paul
so.
McCartney said
Well,
so,
if
I
he
believe
said
it.
so, then there it is.
There it is.
All right, so are women
And he
the
wouldn't
bunk?
lie because Ringo's still around, so you would catch him.
Yeah,
If he said something about John or George, well, they're no longer with us.
that's right.
So-
Not provable. So,
Yes. We have
women, are they the best?
Are women the best? I've got to say yes, because, and Apollo Zeus put it in this format, in a sort of faux super chat. A super chat I know that he would give us if we were allowed to take super chats, because when we get to 1,000 subscribers, they turn that on. Help us with that. Like and share. Share this show. Get us to 1,000 subscribers
Yes.
so that
Support
Apollo
us.
Zeus can really send us $5,000 to answer the question, is John Galt or Dagny Taggart the best? Well, there's a bit of a spoiler there. But also, I haven't given up on the world yet. I'm
Yeah.
not ready to go on strike yet. I'm not ready to stop yet. I don't think that we're there. I think I've got the evidence to support that if Dagny Taggart was alive right now and took exactly the stand that she took in that story, she would be the one who was right. So Dagny
Yes.
Taggart, you are the best.
Yes, Dagny Taggart is the best.
I mean, Hank Reardon,
Yeah.
no, not the best. Dagny Taggart was the best.
Yes.
Just like Jinx Winford and Larry McGee or Damned Dan, Dagny Taggart drove that relationship.
This is absolutely true.
There's a reason why she's the real hero of that book.
Yes, she is.
Yes,
Yeah, she.
just the best.
Oh, I mean, the kind of things that. Oh my God, I'm just so many things that Dagny did, and ways that she approached life, ways that she wasn't afraid, ways that she, even when she was afraid, she kept going, she kept persevering. The things, the funny, of course, Ayn Rand writes all of these things, and just the retorts that she had to Lillian Riordan, the kind of compassion she had for Cheryl Brooks, which, anyway,
She was
I'll just
incredibly
not get there.
passionate.
Yeah.
Now, I've got to say, and big spoiler here. Again, we're already in spoiler territory. In the context of the novel, John Galt's the hero. Again, I'm reimagining this as well, but if it was in today's world right now, yes, Dagny Taggart would be the best. But equal to reality is saying best by what standard? And that would be by my standard, which is the ability to make a life an end in itself, to live a great, passionate life, to enjoy yourself, to achieve happiness, to achieve self-esteem. Not any slight against the character of John Galt. But if Dagny Taggart was in today's world and believed exactly what she believed and did exactly what she did, she would be the bigger hero. That's totally subjective and completely imagined and may or may not even make any sense. But that's the answer to the question on what standards are you answering that question. James Valiant says, Dagny is the best character in all of literature. It's certainly true that, it's a toss-up between Cyrano de Bergerac and Howard Rourke, but I would say probably Howard Rourke is the man I want to be, and Dagny Taggart's the woman I want to be with. And hopefully Amy and I have achieved both of those to some degree.
Yeah. We still have...
Seems to be working out well. But thank you. Thank you for that.
We're always growing. Yeah.
Equal to reality says, well, I'm gay, but I could go for Dagny. Classic summation there, just like, a lot of guys will say, well, I'm straight, but I could totally go for, and then pick your poison.
Yeah. Well,
or would that be your antidote?
The kinds of things that, when I was younger, I was actually more enamored and inspired, okay, I'm going to say it, by Dominique Francon.
Dominique Francon, she knew. She knew. She knew something that a lot of people didn't know. She got it.
She was amazing. Oh, I know a lot of people kind of see her in a kind of like a two-dimensional way, but I really knew her, and I know her, so I knew what she was thinking. I knew what she was trying to do, and I'm so happy she met Howard Rourke. So happy. She may not have, if they hadn't met in the quarry, they may not have ever met. What do you think of that?
I could see that. I could see that. That plot kind of had to go the way that it went.
The fact that she did meet him in the quarry in that way,
Yeah.
that made it even better.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah.
So, I don't have a big message for this week, other than women are just the best. I love women. Even if I was a woman, I would love other women, maybe not the same way, but women are just the best. Given what women are and what this is Robert Heinlein said this, given what women are and what they can do, equality, women should never go for equality. They should demand all that the market will bear, given what women are and what they can do.
Yes. And that's what Ayn Rand did, by the way.
By the way.
She was a woman by chance.
There you go.
She knew what she wanted, and she made sure that her contracts were good with her. She made sure that, in all of the movie The Fountainhead, despite all of its issues, and perhaps it could have been better, she was able to say, nobody changes one word in this script unless you clear it with me first.
Yes.
That's amazing. That is, that talk about empowerment. It's, I can't even. That's amazing.
Incidentally,
did men have that? Did men demand that at the time? Authors and screenwriters? I kind of wonder now. And by the way, shout out to Ayn Rand for, as far as we know, being the first woman to speak in front of a West Point graduating class. Not at the commencement, but in general at West Point. There
was some controversy there. Because people were saying Kamala Harris was the first person to give a commencement, first woman to give a commencement speech at West Point.
Yeah, and people,
to which a lot of us responded, what about Ayn Rand?
Yeah.
What about 1974?
Right.
Well, it turns out that wasn't the commencement speech. It was a speech.
it's technicality.
So there you go. Yes, huge shout out. Jim Ashley incidentally says,
Yeah.
who would be the anti-Dagny? Whether
Betty
male
Pope.
or female.
Betty Pope.
See, I was going to say Lillian.
Oh,
Because Betty Pope
that's true.
was...
Betty Pope was sort of
when
like
you
the
figure out
anti-Cheryl Brooks.
Yeah, she's...
Yeah.
Well,
I guess.
the question
I don't
is the opposite of one, and this came up in a different philosophical context recently, is the opposite of 1 0 or -1? So
Right.
if it's 0, if the opposite of something is the complete absence, it would be Betty Pope.
Yes.
But if the opposite is the negation, then it has to be Lillian Reardon.
I agree.
You know, Lillian Reardon, who bragged, well, I can't create Henry's metal, but I can destroy it. You know, and, you know, if you want to bring men in, I guess you would go to the extreme of Robert Stadler, but I'm going to go with Lillian, just because there's a certain poetry to it, too.
Yeah, that's good.
Because,
And,
because you know, they're the two sides of Hank Reardon there.
right. And the anniversary. And
Yes.
the bracelet. And all that is so good.
Yes. And speaking of strong, independent women,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, was there
Oh.
something you wanted to segue there before I put a bow on this?
Yeah, let's not put a bow on it just yet. I know we're
Okay.
kind of going over, but somebody mentioned on a thread, I think it was the John Galt line or Ayn Rand or something like that, and they asked, you know, considering how intelligent, powerful, and amazing Dagny Taggart is, would she be a feminist icon? And so a lot of people in the chat were, you know, they were grumbly. And I think I kind of put it to rest when I said, you know, Ayn Rand didn't, you know, I mean, if it meant that, you know, if everything that Dagny Taggart exemplified and the kind of role that she gave as an example for herself is a really powerful person, is a really powerful woman, yeah, sure, that's a feminist icon, you could say, but. And then I explained, Ayn Rand didn't like to use the word feminist because in the second wave of feminism and the third wave especially, it then became known as being a victim, basically, instead of being empowered and having that. So as a woman, she thought you do have equal ability and intelligence, you know, especially with men, and there is, you know,
You got a strong reaction to that.
Yeah.
Because Ayn Rand would never have used the word feminist
Right.
in a positive light.
Right.
She famously described herself as a male chauvinist.
Yes.
So I can see why people had a strong negative reaction to that. But if they read what you actually wrote,
Yeah.
then they wouldn't necessarily agree with the point you were making.
They weren't reacting to me negatively. It was just a lot of people were grumbly about, well, you know, Ayn Rand would never have used the word feminist, and Dagny was not a victim, and, you know, that's all very valid points. But my understanding is that if you're thinking in terms of feminism as being basically a statement saying women have equal ability and intelligence to men, sure, and that they should have the right to vote, and they should have the right to property, and so on and so forth, own their own businesses, become politicians, you know, in general. I won't get into that one, but yeah. So it was good that somebody actually asked that, and of course Ayn Rand thought that women were intelligent, not just competent, but potentially extremely amazing human beings. Of course she did, you know. And whenever I think of Ayn Rand talking about how she put it, that she's not a feminist, she's a male chauvinist, I don't know, I feel that that's something that Dominique would say. And she always described Dominique as herself in a bad mood. So.
Well, there is that. Absolutely.
Yeah, considering that, yeah, feminism now, especially today, and especially, you know, maybe it's getting better now. I'm not entirely sure, but it's, yeah, it really contradicted. It brought in a whole bunch of contradictions.
Right.
Yeah. So you were about to say something.
Right. Well, we'll wrap up. Although there's a question in the chat, off topic. If you could be de-aged so that you could look and feel like you were back in your prime, what age would you go back to? Well, equal to reality, my answer to that is always, well, first of all, the larger question would be, would you go back in time? And the answer is no. But if I could be de-aged, 25 for sure. Absolutely. I remember what it was like being 25. I remember that vigor, that energy, those wild hormones, all this stuff.
Yeah.
25 was good. And really, I would say anywhere between 18 and 25.
Yeah, I would say 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Being mature for my age, when I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, why not?
Speaking of women, before we wrap up the topic completely, I just want to give a shout out to my mom, who passed away about 12 years ago or so. But I just want to say, in terms of my own upbringing, and I just talked about that a little bit, with regard to adolescence and all that. My mom, she used to be an alcoholic. She would say to me, I used to drink, a fifth of vodka every night, which is a lot. And I grew up around the phrase cirrhosis of the liver, a little bit too much when I was a young person. And I just want to give a shout out to her. By the time she had her kids, she stopped drinking. And she kept with it, and she was sober all of those years. She had other issues, but no, I mean, she kept her 2 children alive as a single mother, working 3 jobs and all of this, and getting herself through beautician school and making a career for herself, as it was, by having her own house, having her own car, and she was definitely a woman of the 80s in terms of that kind of positive feminist empowerment idea. She was not a victim. I'll say that. And that inspired me. And that's why I ended up growing up with heroes like, when I was 4, my first hero being Debbie Allen, the one amazing African-American dancer, who was on Fame. if you don't know, she's still alive, actually. Yeah, so it was easy to find strong female heroes for myself, because my mom was one. So there you are.
Very good, very good. Dale in the chat says, I'm preparing for my 24th annual 39th birthday party. That's just a couple years past me. Very nice. Very nice. We are all still just about that. I swear I'm still a kid. My daughter just turned 35, and I'm like, I'm not any older than 35. That's just crazy. The heck?
What? I see what you did there. Yes.
So, thank you for joining us. Don't want to run too long here. Got to keep it down to 5 minutes. Coming up this week, good stuff.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of the Ayn Rand Center UK, their daily show, The Daily Objective, they're going to be celebrating their 3rd birthday, speaking of birthdays, tomorrow. They've only let me in on a little bit of what is planned, and it's going to be good, but the big secret they won't tell me, which is good because I'm lousy at keeping secrets. But that's going to be good tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Harry Binswanger is going to answer the question that Amy and I have already answered, but it's going to be Harry, so it's going to be, a little more philosophically rigorous than the answer that we've given. I'm sure that's going to be worth watching.
Yes.
And then on Thursday, something Amy and I have talked about some with y'all, I have strongly encouraged anybody who hasn't seen it yet to watch the show Ted Lasso. Now, I get when it comes to television shows, some things work better for some people than others. But to me, this is the most heartening show, the best show, and in all the best ways that I have seen in years. So I strongly encourage that. And on Thursday, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about the philosophy, the wisdom behind Ted Lasso. I intend to assemble all sorts of information as well as just my personal opinion. So I think that show's going to be worth watching 5 o'clock on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah. And I think that whole show, actually, all 3 seasons of it is it 3 or 4 seasons?
2 seasons. No, 3 seasons. The second season, was a little sketchy. Well, it was more interesting. It was more, but all of it. By the time they get to the end of it, even the craziest things that happen, you can at least see why they happened, how they connect, what it had to do with things. It's nice because some of the writers, and several of the writers are also cast characters, have been coming out with explanations for some of the questions people had and showing what the internal logic of things was, some things that might have seemed arbitrary or disconnected. And you're like, that's why that worked so well, is because they did that other thing. So, good stuff. I'm going to talk about it on Thursday. That's why I have no homework assignment for the week for you, because I'm going to be spending the week prepping that episode. I don't want to not do it really well, because I do want to do the show justice. And my Post-it note for the week is just this. Just this. And I'm going to be working on that. I'm going to connect that to the discussion on Thursday. I'm going to connect that to everything. LOVE, love, is what that Post-it note says for those of you on the podcast platforms who can't see me holding up the big 4x4-inch Post-it note. And when I talk about love, I don't just mean find people out there and hug them. No, I don't mean the indiscriminate love, I love the expression from the Fountainhead, the unfastidious love. No, I mean taking your values seriously, and I don't mean taking them seriously as I'm going to fight for my values. I mean have passion, live with passion. And that is what I want for you. That is what I'm working on myself this week as I put together a show on Ted Lasso.
Can I say one more thing?
And I want Amy to say one more thing.
I was reminded this week because it was a very difficult week, especially the last few days. Everything's fine. But when things are at their worst, you need to be at your best. And even if you're not at your best, be at your best of not being particularly happy.
It's true. It's when things are at their worst that you need and you want to be at your best.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for joining us. As always, show notes for this episode are posted in the YouTube description. Links to all the great stuff we talked about, including those exhibits at the Henry Ford Museum. Take a look at that stuff. It's amazing what we've been through. If you want to support the show, go to robertnasir.com. You'll find immediate links to the last few things that I and Amy have done. You will find a link to our Patreon and PayPal, where you can support the show financially. Throw money. Like Todd Rundgren says, I'm changing the name of the album to Throw Money. If you throw money, we will keep doing this. If you don't throw money, well, we might keep doing this, but maybe not. Who knows? You want a sure thing. That's what you want. So thank you. Thank you to those of you who are already patrons of the show. If you're not already, well, you know what to do. Thank you for that. In the meantime, everybody, have an outstanding week. Have a great time. Have a nice Sunday dinner wherever you're at in the world, so it could well be breakfast time for you. Enjoy that next thing you do. In fact, ask yourself this sentence stub, and I'm going to leave you with this. If the most important thing is going to be the thing I do next. I love this exercise. If the most important thing I do is the next thing I do, I will do... And write that down on a sheet of paper. Fill in that blank at the end. In the meantime, we wish you all of the joy, happiness, flourishing that you so richly deserve. I know you do because you watch this show, and schlubs don't watch a show like this. You certainly don't stick around for as long as y'all have. And in the meantime, we wish